So now we're going to do kind of a thorough massage of the head. They say calm the mind, calm the body. So the head holds a lot of tension. That's where we do all our mental gymnastics. This is where we have a lot of thinking tension from our lives. If we're stressed out, if we're worrying about unpaid bills or getting the kids off to school or what to cook for dinner or what kind of career choice you're going to make next. So if you think a lot, you're going to have a lot of thinking tension. If you cannot calm down your mind, it's very hard to relax the body. So we want to get a little bit of exposure into the neck from the shoulders. So we just pulled the sheet back right here to the armpits. And it's very nice to be nurturing and supportive, just to cradle the head. Be mindful of your thought process. You want to make sure you have really pure and kind thoughts. Always be caring. And usually when I'm connecting with my client this way, it might sound silly, but the clients can actually feel your thoughts. They cannot read your thoughts, but they can feel your thoughts. Whatever kind of state you are in, it's based on the mental wavelength that you're on. So, our thoughts kind of dictate our feelings, and our feelings kind of dictate our physiology. So whatever we're thinking and feeling is going to be manifested in how you carry yourself. So if you have pure thoughts and you're in a good headspace and you feel loving and caring, then your client will be able to feel that on an energetic level. And the opposite is true of that as well too, that if you are feeling negative or you're upset or you're angry, maybe you don't think you're letting it show, but your client can feel the energy of your emotions. So just try to be in the most positive headspace that you can be. So just having your positive thoughts of gratitude, elongating the head from the neck, just a gentle pull. And then from here, I'll show you a good position. You take your fingers, and I have 3 fingers above the ear and 1 finger kind of underneath. And I align my thumbs together. And I try to find the center point right here. Right at the base of the skull where the skull meets the neck. And this would be the hinge point. This is on your atlas vertebrae, basically your first cervical vertebrae. Full deep breath. And just a little bit push down and pull the head back. And you can see the tissue, there you saw a little bit of a stretch happen. Full deep breath tip. Exhale. And then just a little bit of a pull. From there, now I'm going to imagine there's a line coming straight up from there. And I'm just pressing every point on that line. As far as I can go, from base to top to tip. From there, I reposition my hands again, so 3 fingers above, 1 underneath. But now, instead of having my fingers over like this from the center, now I'm going to go side by side, my thumbs here. So this is actually going to target another band. Full deep breath. And again, same thing, press down and pull the head back a little bit. And now 2 thumbs are going to be pressing along those lines as they go through the back of the head to the top of the head. Now sometimes you might find an area that's just a little bit more rigid than the other area. And when you do that, I'll have to show on this side, you can just be a little bit more focused if you come really zoom in close and just see how my thumb connects. It's very subtle, but it's a press and a pull. Press down and pull to the left or to the right, or a wiggle. And you're trying to find, when you find that little heaviness of tension, it's just a little bit more rigid, then do something with it. We say pay attention to the tension. So acknowledge it and say, okay, there you are, tension. All right, what do you want to do? You want to go this way, that way? You want to do a little bit of a circular motion? What is needed in this moment to help this tension dissolve? And we ask ourselves, kind of below the surface of thought, is what can how can I position my thumb? How can I manipulate that tension so it kind of gets away from the skull and is able to surrender and release more. So I'm just playing with it. A lot of massage is trial and error. It's like, let's test this, let's test that. All right, what happens if I push this way? What happens if I do a circular motion? Is that helping to soften the tension? If not, try something else. If it is working, continue what you're doing. Okay, and then give it some reward, right? We've got warm up, excavate, reward. Okay, so we started like this. We went down the center line. We put our two thumbs together and we did two parallel lines like railway tracks. We did feel a little bit more tension up in this area, so we just stayed with it a little bit more. We just paid more attention to it. I still feel something there. But just as we learned in the previous lessons, this is on that big toe sacrum band, so actually, even though I feel the tension in the top of her head, it could be connected to the big toe. So that's something we're going to do when we move on to the next lesson. Okay, carrying on. So we have thumb width. So we have the center thumb, and then we go outwards. Now we can go another thumb width apart. Full deep breath. Press down, and a little stretch. And same thing, find those parallel tracks. And just do little bunny hops with your thumb. Trying not to drag the hair along with it, just bunny hop over top of it. And again, when you find those little bulbous areas, just explore. Try to understand what is holding that tension and how can you move it so the tension releases. You know? If anybody's a barbecue fan out there, if you're, tenderizing meat, you basically have one of those little tenderizing mallets and you're just tapping the meat to break up the tissue. It's kind of a weird analogy to think of it in those terms, but it's somewhat similar. We're just tenderizing the tension. I'm just poking her head with a little thumb mallet, just trying to get the tissue to soften up, to let go of that tension. Break up any congestion. Now I can do both sides. Now some people, you're going to find that there's a very big difference between how people like their head to be worked. Some people like it very soft and light, others like it real hard. Some prefer more fast movements, others prefer it slow. So try to find what works best for you and your client and give them what they need, but also what's going to be effective at removing the tension. And then remembering to give it some reward. So that was excavation we were doing with our thumbs there. Really focused pressure with our thumb, kind of exploring, digging it out, so to speak, as if our thumb was a shovel. Okay, so we did the center. Then we did band here. We did another band here. Now we're going to come a little bit on the side here. So these bands of tension we're going to learn in further lessons, they actually go down to the arms. Those are the roots of tension in the arms. So full deep breath. And then press on the exhale and pull the head. There you go. And then from there, now I can go more along the side of the head. And you can still feel these different bands. And you can still feel, maybe you want to switch to your fingers if your thumbs are getting tired, that's okay. It is a little bit harder to feel tension in the head if you're a little bit inexperienced, if you haven't done a lot of this type of work. So it's good to practice on yourself quite a bit. Feel your own head. You'll know when you're on the bands because it has a very distinct, sharper sensation to it. It's sometimes hard to feel through your fingertips, but you can feel it on yourself. And then this would be a little bit of reward. Also excavation, it's kind of a reward excavation. When I'm doing this part of the head, these circular motions, I'm pulling the skin of the scalp over the skull. And it's a little bit of a tongue twister. You can say that 10 times fast. The skin of the scalp over the skull, the skin of the scalp over the skull. You get the idea. But it's about 50% of your force or your pressure is kind of holding the tissue firmly, and 50% is kind of gliding over the hair. So you have to be firm enough to get to the tension, but soft enough that you're gliding over the hair, that the hair is moving out of the way from underneath your fingertips at the same time as you're maintaining contact with the tension and the tissue underneath. So it's kind of like a give and take, a little bit of a soft, hard approach. You know, you have to have just enough firmness to move the tissue, but just soft enough that the hair can get out of the way, so you're not, you're not grinding on hair and pulling hair with you, because that can be uncomfortable. It takes a little bit of practice to get this right, so it's really important to practice on yourself. And if we can zoom in and get some close-ups, maybe I can just show a little bit. We can get right in close, kind of what it looks like. So I'm squeezing but loosening. Squeeze loose, squeeze loose, squeeze loose, squeeze loose, squeeze loose, squeeze loose. It's happening, almost like if you think about it, you're going to do it wrong. You have to not think about it, but just be as loose and as firm as you can at the same time. All right, firm enough so that you can actually move the tissue, move the tension over the skull, move the scalp, move the skin of the scalp over the skull, but soft enough that you're also gliding over the hair. So this is 100% gliding over the hair, and this is 100% moving the tissue. So there's a balance in between you got to find, a little bit of a give and take, a 50-50 approach. All right. Okay, moving on to now another band. This is the fifth set of bands here. This one goes right underneath the ear, and that can be quite sensitive in this spot right there. Now there's a lot of variations that you can do as well too. I've seen a lot of massage practitioners do this type of move. More you kind of see it at the salon. It's not really my favorite, but some people like it. I tend to practice what I like having done to me. Some people like to do this as well too, almost like you're combing or brushing the hair. And you can even a little bit, just a gentle tug sometimes, just to help. If you pull the hair, it kind of grabs the whole scalp. And it's not really necessarily massage, but it can feel good, and it can help to remove a little bit of that tension. So that's how you would massage the head pretty much in the beginning.